Hello and welcome to Life Lessons with Sheila. I'm so glad that you're here. If you enjoy writing or the simplicity of creating characters to be used in stories, have I got a set of writing prompts that will stretch your creativity and maybe, just maybe, spark a new book idea for you. That's why I share these prompts. I would love to see as many of you sit and write a book and go through the writing process with me one day. For those of you who don't know, and for those who do, pardon this interruption a bit. I wanted to share my why I write. When we get serious about something in our life, we must figure out our why. Once we allow ourselves to figure out our why, we can go so much further with it. Why is it so important to you? Why does it matter? Then it leads to other deeper questions such as what do you hope to get out of it? What is going to keep you writing? And where will you find your strength and courage to write from your heart? When will you take the time to spend crafting your story? My why is pretty anticlimactic. I love writing. I first loved reading and started as a child. I think I dealt with a lot of my childhood trauma by escaping in a book. I would get so wrapped up in a book that for just that time I was reading, I became that character. It was my way of escaping my own home and living with another family. Don't worry, I'm not going to go trauma dump on you. I had great parents, and from a parent's perspective, I knew that they did just what they knew to do. They took care of me the best way they knew how. We don't come into this world knowing how to take care of ourselves, let alone someone else. But once I started writing in elementary school and middle school, I loved it. I took a break after school and didn't write again until just before I became pregnant with my daughter. Then I just put it aside and spent the next 16 years raising kids and becoming a teacher. Then I got the writing bug again and wrote my first book. Then followed by my second book, then the third, fourth, fifth, and the last one. What keeps me writing in the creation process? The process of creating dynamic characters in normal everyday situations and how they shine in extraordinary ways. I write to encourage others in their faith, in their relationships, in their lives to discover their own purpose. The only thing I hope to get out of it is that I create stories that inspire others to grab a hold of their lives and live every moment that they possibly can. What keeps me writing is a love of writing. I find my strength and courage in discovering how the story ends. I never know the ending in full until as I'm writing. Sure, I outline and I know about what will happen in the story, but I leave a lot of wiggle room, and the amazing process that happens while you're writing the book is one that is magical. The story basically writes itself. I'm just a vessel that puts the words down to paper. Now that I've introduced you to the right side of me, no pun intended, let me share the one story I wrote from one of last week's prompts. If you ever want to send me your story, I'd love to share it with the world. If you use any of my prompts for your own work of fiction, I wouldn't mind a shout out, but it's not mandatory. The title I went with was Fluffy and Teenage Troubles. 14-year-old Lily slumped on her bed, letting out a deep sigh. High school was proving to be much more challenging than she had ever anticipated. Between the mounting homework, the pressure to fit in, and the ever-present drama among her friends, Lily felt like she was drowning. Why can't anything just be simple? She muttered to herself, staring at the ceiling. At that moment, Fluffy, her beloved Siamese cat, gracefully leapt onto her bed and nestled beside her. Fluffy had been with Lily since she was a kitten, and in the 9 years since, the bond between them had only grown stronger. At least I have you, Lily said, scratching Fluffy behind the ears. The cat purred contentedly, her blue eyes fixed on Lily's troubled face. The next day at school, things went from bad to worse. Lily had a disagreement with her best friend Emily over something trivial that somehow escalated into a full-blown argument. By lunch, they weren't speaking to each other, and Lily felt a pang of loneliness as she sat by herself in the cafeteria. Returning home that afternoon, Lily threw her backpack in the corner of her room and collapsed onto her bed once more. Fluffy, as always, was there in a heartbeat, curling up next to her. "It's just so hard, Fluffy," Lily whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't know how to deal with everything. School, friends, my art. I feel like I'm failing at everything." Fluffy gently nuzzled Lily's hand with her head, her purring growing louder as if to soothe her troubled heart. Lily wiped her tears and began to stroke Fluffy's soft fur, finding comfort in the familiar rhythm. Later that evening, as Lily tried to concentrate on her homework, she found her thoughts drifting to her art. Drawing had always been her passion, a way to express herself when words failed. But lately, with all the schoolwork and social pressure, she'd barely picked up her sketchbook. Fluffy, as if sensing her thoughts, climbed onto Lily's desk, nudged a sketchbook towards her with her nose. "You're right, Fluffy," Lily said, smiling for the first time that day. "Maybe drawing will help clear my mind." She opened the sketchbook and began to draw. With each stroke of the pencil, the stress and anxiety seemed to melt away. She lost herself in the lines and shapes, letting her emotions flow onto the paper. Fluffy watched intently, her presence a calming influence. As the drawing took shape, Lily felt a sense of accomplishment and a peace that she hadn't experienced in weeks. She realized that her art was not something to be pushed aside, but a vital part of who she was. It was her way of coping, of understanding herself and the world around her. The next morning, Lily decided to make amends with Emily. With Fluffy's encouragement and the clarity that she gained from her art, she felt ready to face the challenges ahead. At school, she found Emily by their usual spot and took a deep breath. "Emily, I'm sorry about yesterday," Lily said, her voice sincere. "I don't want us to fight. You're my best friend, and I don't want to lose that." Emily looked at her for a moment and then smiled. "I'm sorry too, Lily. I don't want to fight either. Let's forget about it and move on." The two friends hugged, and Lily felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The rest of the day seemed brighter, and Lily knew that no matter what happened, she had the support of her friends, her art, and of course, Fluffy. That evening, as Lily sat on her bed with Fluffy curled up beside her, she reflected on the day's events. She had faced her troubles head-on and emerged stronger, thanks to the love and support around her. Fluffy had been her silent confidant and source of strength, reminding her of the importance of staying true to herself. "Thank you, Fluffy," Lily whispered, kissing the top of her cat's head. "I couldn't have done it without you." Fluffy purred in response, her eyes closing contentedly. Together they faced the ups and downs of teenage life, finding comfort and strength in the unbreakable bond. Now, on to this week's prompts. Remember, I have 3 writing prompts. One's for a children's story, one's for a teen story, and one for an adult story. They're all focusing on one circumstance together. Basically, 3 perspectives focus on the devastating loss of their mother and how they handled the loss in their life. Your children's story prompt, the title is The Magic Garden. Here's your prompt. 7-year-old Sophie loses her mother and feels a deep emptiness in her heart. One day, she discovers a hidden garden that her mother used to tend. With the help of her kind neighbor, Miss Jenkins, Sophie learned to care for the garden. Through this process, she finds solace and a way to feel closer to her mother, understanding that love and memories can live on in the things that they shared. Your teenage prompt is the title is A Song for Mom. Here's your prompt. 16-year-old Jake struggles to cope with the sudden loss of his mother. She was his biggest supporter in his music endeavors, and without her, he feels lost and unmotivated. When he finds an unfinished song his mother had been writing for him, Jake decides to complete it. Through the process, he reconnects with his love for music and finds a way to honor his mother's memory, realizing that she'll always be with him in spirit. For the adult story prompt, the title is Letters from Mom. Here's your prompt. 30-year-old Emily faces the devastating loss of her mother, who was her confidant and best friend. While going through her mother's belongings, Emily finds a box of letters her mother wrote to her over the years, meant to be read after her passing. Each letter offers wisdom, comfort, and guidance for the different stages of Emily's life. Through these letters, Emily navigates her grief, finds strength, and learns to embrace life with her mother's love still guiding her. I hope you find inspiration from this week's prompts, and if you ever decide to write one from this week's prompts or even previous weeks, and want to send it to me and allow me to share it with my community, I would be so honored. You can send it to my email with writing prompt in the subject line. And if you would like a writing coach or someone to ghostwrite your story for you, I have spaces open for those services as well. You can find that information in a video I have linked in the description box below. Until next time, happy writing!